Well, everything that happens to a soul that lives in the divine will, Jesus says he's doing it. So Jesus made me, my whole body just was full of pain. And I just couldn't go on. And he did that. So I thanked him for it. And he did that so Michael could speak to you. Aren't you grateful? Yes. Yeah. So our Lord knows what he's doing. So, surprisingly. I'm sure you enjoyed listening to what the Divine Will is doing throughout the world. And in November, Michael and I will be going to America. So that'll be another connection we'll be making, and we'll be able to see and meet the other brothers and sisters in our great worldwide family. And you know, Jesus said to Louisa, first we give the gift to one soul, and then we form a house of Nazareth in her or him, and then we bring her together with another soul and another soul, and it's like the cells of our body, you know, they're all coming together to form one big global humanity of Jesus. One of the Divine Will priests at the priest retreat read this out after Holy Communion. And I'm going to read it to you because it's so beautiful that I want to type it out so I can read it after Holy Communion every time I receive Jesus sacramentally. It's October the 23rd, 1917 in volume 12. This morning, after having received Blessed Jesus, I was saying to him, Jesus, my life, tell me, what was the first act that you did when you received yourself sacramentally? And Jesus said, my daughter, the first act that I did was that of multiplying my life into as many lives for as many creatures as can exist in the world. Notice he doesn't say that did or do exist, he says that can exist in the world. Thus each one would have a life of mine for himself alone. A life that continually prays, thanks, gives satisfaction and loves for him alone. How I also multiply my pains for each soul as if I had suffered for her alone and not for others. This is what Jesus did for you when he first received himself sacramentally. He did it as if he did it for each one of you for yourself alone, as if no one else existed in the world. So you can, when you receive communion, it's a very personal thing. It's a very personal relationship to Jesus. In that supreme moment of receiving myself, I gave myself to everyone, and to suffering my passion in each heart, so I could be able to conquer their hearts by way of pains and love. Then giving all my divinity, see what he's giving you in exchange? Giving all my divinity, I came to take the dominion of all. But, alas, my love remains disappointed by many, and I wait with anxiety for loving hearts who, receiving me, unite with me to multiply themselves in all. So this is what you must do after you receive Jesus in Holy Communion. You do what he did. You multiply yourselves in every soul. And every soul, if they are disposed, will receive the fruits of your communion.
Did you read that last week?
But alas, my love remains disappointed by many, and I wait with anxiety for loving hearts who, receiving me, unite with me to multiply themselves in all, desiring and wanting what I want. In this way I can take at least from them what the others do not give me, and receive the contentment of having them according to my desire and my will. Therefore, my daughter, when you receive me, do what I did, and I will thus have the contentment that at least there are two of us who want the same thing. October 23, 1917, Volume 12. A very important one to print out on a little prayer card for yourself when you're going to Mass, because if you don't have it in your heart, which if you're not attentive enough, just to have that and read it, you know what you must do after communion. To be repeating the acts of Jesus, uniting yourself with him in order to multiply the effects of that communion in all souls. This is how important you are to Jesus. You give the effects of all the sacraments when you receive them to all souls. This afternoon in my hermitage I was doing the Rosary of the Luminous Mysteries, and I was doing my rounds where the first one is the baptism of Jesus. So I enter Jesus as he's receiving the graces of his baptism in an eternal way, a divine way. And then I fuse my baptism in his baptism to divinize my baptism. And then I fuse all the baptisms that's ever been done or should have been done into his baptism. So the luminous mysteries are all the sacraments, baptism, that's what they are. We can thank Pope John Paul II for the luminous mysteries, because as divine will souls, we can divinize the effects of every sacrament and enter these sacraments in the way Jesus did and divinize all the sacramental life of the church in every age. Because the effects of the sacraments, in volume 18, Jesus speaks about the moaning sorrows of the Holy Spirit for the way the sacraments are administered and received. Sacrilegiously a lot of the time. So I've done a book called The Rounds in the Sacramental Life from volume 18. It's a very little book, but I do it at home myself to repair for the sacrileges of the sacrament. So that's just a little added extra today. I mean, we can't expect to cover the whole 36 volumes in one retreat. And because I don't know if I'll see you again, then I thought of extending this talk because I've missed one talk and combining two of our talks together today. So I have something to say about the lady who asked me. I'm not sure which one. She said, Tony Hickey said, after we give birth to divine lives, we make an intention. Who was that? She was sitting there just...
I think she's not home.
Oh, what a shame. I wanted to say to her, yes, we can make an intention when we create divine lives. Does anyone know that lady personally?
Was it Chrissy? No.
No, I know where she was sitting. She was sitting.
Was she with her sister Teresa? Bacon and Spade is usually Bacon and Spade.
Okay. Well, this is recorded anyway, so I went back home and was meditating on it, and of course we can appropriate the divine lives to send them wherever we want them to go. If you remember, I said I don't do that because Jesus knows where to send them. Do you remember I said that?
Yes.
Well, he does. He appropriates the divine lives wherever they're best to go. But there was certain occasions where Louisa had the intention, and Jesus asked her to pray for example, to block the divorce law in Italy and other occasions. So he did ask her sometimes to make an intention in her prayer. But when she made an intention, at the very same time, she made a commitment to suffer the pains, to make the reparation for that particular sin. So when you make an intention, are you willing to suffer with Jesus the pains that particular sin is causing in the humanity of Jesus? You see, this is the difference between our life and the life of those that live in the sanctity of the virtues. In the sanctity of the virtues, we do a lot of petitioning. You know, please Jesus, or please Holy Spirit. we petition. Well, we were told by the church there were 4 aspects to our prayer. First one, very good. You can help me out here. Adoration, reparation. The last one's petition. What's the third one?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Thanks, Graham. Adoration, reparation, thanksgiving and petition. Well, that's what we do in the divine will, but when we adore, repair and thanks in the divine will, it's Jesus doing it in us. Therefore, it has a divine merit, and it glorifies the Father because it's coming from the divine humanity of Jesus, not from you as a created soul. That's the difference. That's why fusing one's prayer in the divine will is critical before you begin your prayer, so that it's Jesus praying in you. Now we're going to, before we move into the hiddenness of love, which you're going to enjoy so much because we've got beautiful videos of it. Before we do that, I wanted to read to you this quote because, see, I was sort of reflecting in my hermitage about what to speak of today, and our Lord gave me this. It was just opened on my desk. So, whence I continued my abandonment in the divine fiat, and not knowing how to do anything other. You see? What Louisa does, always, she's abandoning her nothingness into the divine fiat. That's what we need to do in a continuous mode, abandoning our nothingness into the divine fiat, and not knowing how to do anything other than that. I went on saying, my little I love you in the divine acts. Not only, but I said to myself, my Jesus, my love, my I love you flows in your heartbeat, in your breath, upon your tongue, in your voice, even in the littlest particles of your adorable person. But while I did this, the dear one of my life, making himself seen, put my I love you inside his heart, and inside and outside of all his divine person. And he enjoyed it so much that it incited me to repeat however many more I love yous I could, in order to be able to find the pleasant I love you in all of his being. And then pressing me to himself, he said to me, my daughter, love is life. And when this love goes forth from the soul who lives in my will, it holds the generative virtue to form in God himself the life of love. This whole retreat is about love. But listen to those words again. My daughter, love is life. And when this love goes forth from the soul who lives in my will, it holds the generative virtue to form in God himself the life of love. And since the substance of divine life is love, hence the creature with her love forms in God another divine life. And we feel in ourselves our life formed by the creature. That's why Jesus calls you people the prodigy of prodigies, because only you can give this glory in a divine manner to God. No matter how holy others are in the sanctity of the virtues, they do not have the generative virtue. And you get the generative virtue by fusion, by fusing your words. Say you're about to answer your phone. I'll bet you do that a lot during the day. And as soon as the phone rings, you should say, I fuse my words into your words, Jesus. I fuse my heart into your heart, so whoever is on the other end of this phone, I'll be speaking to them with your voice, your words, your heart. You don't have to say it in that so many words, but that's what I do. Whoever I look at the phone, I usually know, I don't answer my phone if I don't recognise the number, but I want to speak to that person with his words, with his heart. And that fusion activates the generative power of the divine will. So you will be speaking to that person with Jesus' words and his heart and his love. And even if they don't understand the divine will, they're going to feel that. Because when Jesus speaks, unless they're completely immersed in mortal sin and they've been made deaf, by their sins, they're going to feel something. They're going to feel touched by the words of Jesus. But if you just speak with your own words, I know you've done your prevenient act, so you'll still be speaking with his words, but in every fusion you do, it's intensified because you've made a conscious act in the divine will. So I'll go on to say what he says. This life that the creature has formed with her love united to our will. You see that beautiful creature there? She's the bride of Christ. And you are the bride of Christ. And you see how she's in water, she's in the sea of the divine will, and she's revolving, doing her rounds in the divine will. And the sea is carrying her. You see how the fish are in the sea? It's the buoyancy of the sea that carries them. And it's a beautiful image. I found it on the internet of your soul as your soul rotates in the eternal rounds of the divine will. The life that the creature has formed with her love, united to our will, because it is he that administers the power so that the creature can arrive to form the divine life himself, all of love in God. This life is God's triumph and the triumph of the creatures. Remember me saying you are the triumph?
Yes.
We're not waiting for the triumph. Not us. everyone else is. Everyone else is praying for the triumph. But you are the triumph, because the reason is Jesus and Mary, who say they are king and queen of every soul that's given their fiat. Hands up who knows that. You know that, don't you? No? Some are saying no. Jesus is king and queen of every soul that gives their fiat. And they're sharing their sovereignty with you. So that with your acts done in their will, you can command creation to act in a certain way. You can divinize every act of humanity and take these acts. You're not doing it. The divine will's doing it in you, but because you've given your nothingness into the fiat, as Louisa did here, I abandoned myself, my nothingness into the fiat. And she, even when she's tired, she can just say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you know, even when you grow tired and you don't know how to do around or that, just never stop saying I love you in the divine will. And look what happens. This life is God's triumph. So you've got this life at your disposal. Therefore, you're God's triumph. Aren't you happy?
Yes.
And it is the triumph of the creature. Why is it the triumph of the creature? God has given you his whole self and his generative power, which was his original intention when he created Adam and Eve. And now you, in a certain sense, are like the new Adam and Eve, and he's giving you everything, but you're not going to fail like Adam and Eve failed, because Jesus said to Adam, or said to Louisa, because she did a lot of reflections on Adam, and he said to Louisa, but Adam didn't have me and our Blessed Mother to help them, but you do. Therefore, you're in a bit better position than Adam and Eve were. So I'll say that to you as well. How can you fail when you've got Jesus and Mary who are reigning in your soul? There is no reflections, self-reflections in the divine will. If you look at yourself, you're going to fall. You'll fail. You do not look at yourself. Keep your eyes fixed firmly on Jesus and Mary. And in the act of triumph, we take this divine life that the creature has formed in ourselves. Notice he says that you have formed this divine life in them, because he's giving you the merit as if you did it, but you didn't do it. There's another long, big teaching on that in the hiddenness. He hides behind, he's doing the act in you, but he lets you think, or he gives you the merit as if he did it, and he did it. You know, like a little child his father's teaching him how to drive a car, and he's very little, say he's about 3 years old, and he's on the lap of his dad, and his dad says, "Okay, go, you hold the steering wheel," and then he's doing all the pedalling and everything, and he says, "Oh, that's great! Look, you're driving the car. You know, how wonderful." And this little kid thinks he's actually driving the car, but it's his father driving the car. So that's what our God's like. He lets us think we're driving the car. We're just holding the wheel, you know, and he's doing all the hard work, changing the gears, putting his foot on the accelerator or the brake. And takes a long time to work through one teaching, doesn't it? I just enjoy it so much. And in the act of triumph, we take this divine life that the creature has formed in ourselves, and we give him to the good of all creatures, the divine life. We give this divine life to the good of all creatures as a precious gift that the little daughter of our volition makes to everyone, and with anxiety we await with her love. She comes to form other divine lives in our supreme being. Now the Trinity is waiting with anxiety, watching you every moment of the day, saying, when is she going to fuse herself? Is she going to fuse herself in this act she's doing? I say she, but you know, I know there are males here. When he or she, they're waiting with anxiety. Don't keep God waiting. They're looking to you because you are so few in the world, and they've given you their generative virtue, and they're waiting with anxiety for you to fuse your act, even just your breath, even your gazing. When I go out in my forest where I live, I say, Jesus, I fuse my eyes into your eyes so I can gaze upon all creatures with your gazes of love. Just little things like that is a fusion. It's another divine life you're creating, and you're pleasing the Blessed Trinity. My daughter, our love is not sterile, rather it holds the seed to generate continuous life, so that as you said, I love you, in my heartbeat and in my breath, thus I generated another heartbeat and another breath, and so on with all the rest, in a way that I felt in myself the new generation of your I love you that formed the new life of my love. You look so sad. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, this is what you do when you fuse yourself. My daughter, our love is not sterile. Rather, it holds the seed to generate continuous life, so that as you said, I love you, in my heartbeat, in my breath, thus I generated another heartbeat, another breath, and so on with all the rest, in a way that I felt in myself the new generation of your I love you that formed the new life of my love. Oh, how happy I felt thinking that my daughter was forming inside of me, my own life in me, all of love. If you might know how moving this act of the creature is, that she gives God to God with her love. Oh, how it enraptures us, and feeling ourselves enraptured, we give other love in order to have the contentment to have her repeat our new lives of love. Therefore, love, love, love a great deal, and you will make your sweet Jesus more happy. Now you see why I wanted to read that to you before we move on to the next. Now, this other picture here is an extraordinary image of the bride of Christ who lives in the divine will. Now, the whole church is the bride of Christ, as you know. But the bride of Christ who lives in the divine will has that extraordinary advantage that we just spoke of. And so I just wanted to explain to you something very, very important. Is when you are fused, when you come to live in the fourth degree, the full possession of the divine will, you live inside the Son of the divine will. Do you see the bride there living inside the Son? And Jesus has a special message, that teaching that he says, those who have lived in the divine will on earth, that's those who have come to live fully possessed of the divine will. When they go to heaven, they live inside God, inside the Son of the divine will, and all the other blessed live outside the Son and live off the reflections. Can you see the reflections of the Sun, the rays of the Sun that come from the souls like Louisa, who lived, and our Blessed Mother, who lived inside the divine will. Now that's almost incomprehensible, because people say, oh, that's not fair, how come all the other saints that have lived in the sanctity of the virtues are not living inside the Son? Well, we can't argue with Jesus' words, because that's what he said. So he said, if you live on earth and you practice and live this sanctity on earth, and you reach the point of being gifted with full possession of the divine will, as Louisa did, when you go to heaven, you will live inside the heart of the Trinity. You won't be living off the reflections of the Trinity. You're still fully, those saints are still fully happy. But the teaching of the church is they're all fully happy, but according to the capacity that they allowed themselves to have on earth with the virtues, right? But everyone's fully happy, Nobody's envious of the next person because they're all fully happy. So those saints aren't arguing why they're not. It's like they're fully happy because they're receiving their beatitude from the Trinity themselves, but from Our Lady and Louisa and the other souls. Jesus said, who will be few, by the way, in volume 12, who live inside the heart of the Trinity. And when I saw that image, I saw that was like emblematic of what a teaching of Jesus, because you could see how the other souls are receiving the radiation from that sun. Just thought I'd show you that. I don't have time to read that teaching, but it's just a little drop of what your destiny is. Your destiny. If we know our destiny, then we can work harder to arrive at our destiny. Now, we're going to move on to this beautiful, beautiful truth about the divine will is hidden in all creation. And he calls it, every creature is a veil for my divine will. In a sense, you are also veils for the divine will. Because like I said, if anyone looked at you, they wouldn't. They wouldn't say God exists in him or her. Just joking with you, of course. But sort of true, isn't it, you know? Someone looks at me and thinks, does God exist in her? Like we just look like any other human being. And people don't suspect, you know, your power, your gift. But that's done on purpose by the Trinity, so that the devil will not detect you. You are the celestial militia of heaven. You're on earth to combat the devil in disguise. You're deliberately in disguise. What happens in an army when they have a special mission to infiltrate somewhere? They wear camouflage. They disguise themselves. And if it's a particular infiltration, they can even put on the outfit of the enemy. That's happened in World War II. So you're deliberately disguised so that the devil will not know your power and the gift God's given you. So, having said that, we're going to see hidden in what a drop of water hides beyond the veil of a drop of water. And this is the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese photographer, and he wrote an amazing book called The Message from Water. He's not a Catholic, but he's a very spiritual man. And I want you to really concentrate.
This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto from his book, The Message from Water. Mr. Emoto's work provides factual evidence that human vibrational energy, Thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Please remember that water comprises over 70% of a mature human body and covers the same amount on our planet. Water is the very source of all life. This photo shows the beautifully formed geometric design of the Yushi Spring water. This next photo is from the Shimanto River, the last clean spring in Japan. Notice the extraordinary geometric forms. The fact that the molecular structure of water can be affected by our consciousness, our intent, and our sounds is extremely important. This photo is from the Mount Cook Glacier in New Zealand. Mr. Emoto has been visually documenting these molecular changes in water by means of his photographic techniques. He freezes droplets of water, then examines them under a dark field microscope that has photographic capabilities. His work clearly demonstrates the diversity of the molecular structure of water and the effects of the environment upon the structure of the water. This photo is from the fountain in Lourdes, France. This photo is from contaminated water from the Yodo River in Japan. In this photo, we can compare the contaminated water with clean stream water. Look at the difference. Mr. Emoto decided to see what effects music would have upon the structure of water. He placed distilled water between two speakers for several hours while playing different music and then photographing the crystals that formed after the water was frozen. This photo is of water being exposed to Beethoven's Pastorale. This photo is the effect of Bach's Air for the G-string on the water. This photo is water exposed to Chopin's Farewell Song. This next photo is water being exposed and affected to music that was designed for healing. This photo is of water being exposed to the Kawachi folk dance. This photo shows the effect of heavy metal music upon the water. Here now we can compare the effects of healing versus heavy metal music and what happens to the water molecules. Mr. Emoto decided to see how thoughts and words affected the formation of untreated distilled water crystals by typing words onto paper and then taping this paper onto glass bottles overnight. This photo shows the effects of the words, "Thank you." This next photo shows the effects of the words, "Love and appreciation." This photo shows the effects of the words, "You make me sick, I will kill you." And here we can compare the effects of "thank you" with the "you make me sick, I will kill you." Very, very different geometric forms being occurred through the intention. Now this photo is of a very polluted and toxic water from the Fujiwara Dam. Here now is the same water from the Fujiwara Dam after a Buddhist monk had offered a prayer over it. Prayer, that sound coupled with intention, seems to have an extraordinary ability of restoring water to its natural, harmonious, geometric symmetry. And in this photo we can compare the toxic water and then the effects of praying over the water.
In this experiment, Dr. Emoto's researchers used a glass of Tokyo tap water, which seems to be unable to form crystals, and performed a test. Participants placed the glass in the center of their circle and sent gratitude to the water. Studying the water under the microscope, they started to see a crystal formation. Increased magnification showed the symmetry of the crystal, revealing how the tap water was transformed by the gratitude sent by the group. The crystal continued to grow, expressing the energies received. The tap water from Tokyo finally produced a beautiful crystal.
It was interesting to see children so completely astonished after they witnessed the difference in Tokyo tap water, before and after they sent the prayer. Their mothers were kind of skeptical before this experiment. But afterwards, they said, "We really have to believe it."
One of the most important things there is how our words affect each other. See, the language, Jesus wants us to speak the celestial language to Him, first of all, and to allow Him to speak it into us. So, you know, so will I, as you speak, 100 million galaxies are formed, right? So when we speak with His voice, what is happening there in the molecular structure of water and elsewhere, it happens in a greater dynamic on souls. So if you're speaking His love to other souls, it's His words you're speaking because you've fused yourself, and you are beautifying that soul. Just like you have beautified me with your gratitude and your loving, kind words and thoughts, etc. You beautify me with His words, His desires. See? And I feel that. So if someone is loving you with His voice and His words, which you have the capacity to do, even if someone who's not in the divine will, if they speak nicely to you, you're more likely to respond to them, aren't you? But you have a greater capacity to beatify souls, which Jesus just said in that last reading. I told you about His love. So that is the evidence in nature that souls, that even souls that aren't living with the generative power of the divine will, if they have loving thoughts, loving intentions, he mentioned the word intentions, that you can change polluted water into what looks like a monstrance. Those molecular images were just like a monstrance, and they even had the circular host inside. You see? So that's evidence. You can look it up on YouTube. There's many other videos of Father Emoto's work. But I was loaned that book about, more than 20 years ago, closer to 30 years ago. And it just blew my mind, because I know I used to be a crisis counsellor at Lifeline, and I know many souls that have been suffered verbal abuse, in domestic violence, etc., even children, who hear terrible words spoken to them. And it breaks down the molecular structure in their body, and this is why the old saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words can't ever hurt me, is not true. Because words do hurt. And words do break your spirit, and words do affect you. But now we know that that is an actual reality from Dr. Emoto's work. And I put his work in my rounds to divinize his work. Because it's a beautiful work he does. He travels all over the world showing these pictures. So, did you like that video?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so we're going to move on to a beautiful video, 2 more videos. once were is being transformed into beautiful flowers. It's just amazing because some of those cacti only bloom, like once a year, or some of them once every 5 years. So I'm going to read you Jesus' words about his hiddenness, the hiddenness of the divine will in all creation. Beyond this is an excerpt, by the way. It's not the full lesson, but beyond this, our divine will remains everywhere. And heaven and earth and all are filled up to the brim with him, so that all are veils that hide him, but mute veils. And if in their muteness they eloquently speak of their Creator, it is not them, but my will himself hidden in the created things, so that he speaks by way of signs, as if he might not have word. He speaks in the sun by way of signs of light and of heat. He speaks in the wind, giving penetrating and ruling signs. He speaks in the air. He gives mute signs, as to form the breath of all creatures. Oh, if the sun, the wind, the air, and all other created things might have the good of the word, how many things would they say of their Creator? Instead, who is the speaking work of the Supreme Being? It is you, the creature. We, in creating her, loved her so much that we gave her the great good of the Word. Our will wanted to make himself Word of the creature. He wanted to go forth from the muteness of created things and forming the organ of the voice in her, formed the Word in order to be able to speak. Hence the voice of creatures is the speaking veil in which my will speaks eloquently and wisely. And since the creature doesn't say, nor does she always do the same thing as created things do, that never change their action, they are always at their post to do that same action that God wants from them. Therefore, my will maintains the continuous attitude of the multiplicity of ways that there are in the creature. Whence one can say that he not only speaks in the voice, but makes himself speaking in the works, in the steps, in the mind, and in the heart of all creatures. But what isn't our sorrow in seeing this speaking creation make use of the great good of the word in order to offend us. Remember the effects of the words "I hate you" on Dr. Emoto's video. Make use of the gift that we gave them in order to offend the giver and to impede the great prodigy that it can do of graces, of love, of divine knowledges, of sanctity that I can do in the speaking work of the creature. But for one who lives in my will, they are voices that speak. And oh, how many things I go manifesting to her. I am in continuous motion and attitude. I enjoy full liberty to do and to say surprising things. And I complete the prodigy of my speaking, loving and working will in the creature. Therefore, give me full liberty, and you will see what my volition knows how to do in you. This is why Louisa cries out, "Jesus, I want to be poor, poor, little, little. I want nothing even of your very things. It's better if you keep them. I want only you. And as I need things, you will give them to me. Isn't it true, O Jesus?" And Jesus replied, "Brava, brava, my daughter. Finally I found someone who does not want anything. Everyone wants something from me, but not the all, that is myself alone. But you, by wanting nothing, have wanted everything. And here is all the fineness and astuteness of true love. Now, what is so unusual about the fact that your life is so ordinary? I usually cover my greatest works with the most ordinary things so that no one can detect them. This leaves me more freedom to act. When I have completed everything, then I spring my surprise, manifest my work to all, and make all stand in awe. Does it seem like a small feat to make all acts flow in the current of my will, while the current of my will flows in me and forms one single act with all the acts of creatures? Is it a small feat to make one divine desire permeate the acts of all creatures as the cause of each one? To substitute for all acts with one divine act, one love, one reparation, one eternal and divine glory? Is it not wonderful that the flowing of a human will can be in constant relationship with the divine will, and that one can have its outlet in the other? My daughter, I recommend that you pay attention and follow me faithfully. My little daughter of my volition, why do you fear? In my will there are no fears, but highest love, courage and firmness and decision, one time, that is not moved anymore. So much so that one who lives in him does not pray, but commands. And she herself, as mistress, can take whatever she wants. We put everything at her disposition, and this is because everything is sacred. Everything is holy in her, much more so that living in her volition, she will not want, nor will she take, nor will she command us if it is not what we want. Therefore, her commands please us. They make us rejoice. And we ourselves say to her, take, say, what else do you want? Rather, how much more you take, so much more will you make us happy. Rather, when the creature wants our will, all her acts are like so many messengers between heaven and earth, and they descend and climb continually, making themselves now messengers of peace, and now messengers of love, of glory, and sometimes they arrive to command the divine justice to halt itself, taking upon themselves its just fury. How much good these messengers do when we see them come before our throne. We recognize ourselves in these acts that, disguised by the human veils of the acts of creatures, they hide our will, but it's always Him. And being delighted in ourselves, we say, how much artistry of love He holds, for He, the divine will, hides Himself in the acts of the creature in order to not make Himself known. But we know Him just the same, and loving ourselves again, we let Him do whatever He wants. Therefore we call these acts of the creature our acts, and as such we recognize them. Only that the creature has concourse with us, and with her acts has given them as attire in order to cover herself. Therefore she is the knoll where my divine will can rest himself, and He is delighted to unfold His love, making unheard of prodigies, hiding Himself in the creature as covering Himself with her cast-offs, even more than the creation itself. All creatures had origin from his fiat. They live, they grow, and are conserved in him. But he is the actor and the spectator of all their acts. She will complete her life in his fiat, and it will fly in heaven in one act wanted by his volition. Hence everything is his, and all rights are his. No one can escape him. The only difference is that one who lives in him has life together with him, knows him, is light of whatever he does, rejoices him with her company, forms her joy, and the confirmation of all she wants my will done in her. Instead, one who doesn't live in him, doesn't know him, remains isolated and forms his continuous sorrow. After this he added, with inexpressible love and tenderness, my blessed daughter, how beautiful it is to live in my volition. This creature keeps us always in festival. She knows nothing other than our will alone, and everything becomes for her will of God. The sorrow, divine will, the joy, her heartbeat, breath, movement become divine will. Her steps, her works, they feel the steps of my volition and the sanctity of the works of my fiat. The food that she takes, the sleep, the most natural things become for her will of God. Whatever she sees, feels and touches, she sees, feels and touches the palpitating life of my volition. My will holds her so occupied and invested by him that jealous he doesn't permit that even the air she breathes is not divine will. And as everything for her is our will, so for us. We feel her in all our divine being, in the heartbeat, in the movement. Neither do we know how to do anything, nor do we want to do anything without the one who lives in our volition. Our love is so much that we make her flow in all our works, and together with us, she maintains and participates in our creative and conservative act, so that she stays together with us to do what we ourselves do and want whatever he wants from us. Neither can we put her aside, being one the will that we possess, one the love, one the act that we do. And it is proper that living in our volition we live together always to do only one thing. It was this need that our love felt to keep company with the creature, to together with her, to gladden ourselves, to hold her in our womb, in order to felicitate ourselves together. And since the creature is little, we want to give her our will, in order to have occasion in her every act of giving her our life, our act, our ways, us through our nature and her through grace. And this is our joy, the greatest glory for us. Does it seem little to you to give our whole being that the creature being little cannot contain? She gives it back to us again together with herself, and we again return to give ourselves to her. It is one continuous giving of ourselves to each other, and this makes rise such love and glory that we feel as repaid by her for having given her life. Therefore, in each thing that she does that does not enter our will, it is a rent that we feel, a right that we feel taken away from us, a glory and a joy that we lose. Hence, be attentive and make sure that everything becomes for you divine will. Beyond this, to each act that the creature does in our divine volition, we duplicate our love towards her. Our love, as it invests her, carries with itself our sanctity, our goodness and our wisdom, so that she remains duplicated in sanctity, in goodness, and in the knowledge of her Creator. And as we love her with duplicated love, thus she loves us with double love, with sanctity and duplicated goodness. Our love is operative, and as it departs from our supreme being, in order to love the creature with double love, thus it gives her grace to make her love us with love always growing. Not to give anything less to an act so great done in our will is impossible to us. These acts, we can say, are the enrapturers of our love. They enrapture our sanctity, and the ways are formed in order to know who we are and how much we love.